So if you're sending your kid to kindergarten in Hawaii and you're going through the Geographic Exception or GE application process, this video is for you. We're going to go over our timeline on when schools got back to us, the application thing, and then ultimately some advice on what we went through and just share some just thoughts on this whole thing because it can be a little bit crazy. Now we're going to refer to these schools not by their name but by letter. Sorry, I know it may not be helpful for parents who are like looking for specific schools, but just so that there's no hurt feelings, these are all good schools. All right, so can you go over like the general timeline for the GEs and the application process?
Yes. So the whole GE process starts from January. You're supposed to submit your application between a certain time from beginning of January to the beginning of March.
Some schools can let you know by like mid-March, but if you apply to like a really popular school, you're not gonna know until the first Friday in April. So it's a like there's a long month that you actually have to wait if you applied, and then you'll find out after that. She also mentioned that the way that the schools notify you, it varies per school. So for us, some were email. I know that people who got accepted got phone call, and then some was just straight up like you gotta
Letter.
wait. Yeah, the letter that you'll get in the mail. Okay, so the first of these seven schools is gonna be school A, and this was a school that we actually heard back from pretty early.
Early.
Yeah.
We knew some parents who have their kids attend that school, and then according to her, she said that it's a good. I mean, the principal seemed nice, and her daughter was enjoying the school there. And so that's why we're like, oh, it's not too far from our place.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. Like things to consider is also like location. And with some of these schools, location was definitely something that kind of hurt the school in our rating system. So
Yeah.
yeah, with school A, it was close by and it had a pretty good reputation, really good administration. But ultimately we had to let them know by I think it was 10 days
10 days.
from the letter, right?
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
were doing.
So because of that limitation, it was hard for us to commit because we didn't hear back from any of the other schools. And so for us, we had to end up declining that
Mm.
first one. So it was really nice to get it. And maybe if we had received the acceptance later, like with the rest of them, we could have had more time. But because that was the first school and we had to let them know yeah, we just couldn't accept that because it was too early.
Mm.
And so with school B, uh, what are your thoughts on school B?
That was just very unexpected. I mean, it was a really surprise to hear back from them. And then the fact that we were actually able to visit the school was
Yeah.
very good too. To see, how the campus was. Mentioning that not every school allows a school tour, so you kind of have to call individually to say if they actually offer one.
And then this was a school that, great reputation.
Yes, smaller school.
Yeah, very small school, which we thought was a plus. Location wise, it was medium
Yeah,
to further, but it was
yeah,
like medium distance from
yeah,
where we lived.
yeah.
But we thought it would be a good school. Ultimately, we decided to not accept this, and this was a tough one because I think
It was a tough
it was
one.
probably between this school and the school that we ultimately picked.
Uh huh.
So it was school B it was close.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very.
But like why do you think we decided not to do B?
I think I wasn't impressed as I thought I would be. I just couldn't imagine my son going there. Yeah, it's just that instinct that you get when you visit school. Like we usually have quite similar opinion when it comes to like choosing school. Like
Yeah.
even for our preschool, we felt the same way, and then we were on the same page on deciding where to send him. So I
Yeah.
felt like mm, I just didn't get that click in my mind. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
to send him there.
Yeah, me too. I think my expectation of the school was different from the reality of it. And that's not to say it's a bad school. It
Mm-mm.
just I think my expectations were so high. And then when we were walking around and doing a tour, I was like, it's more like reality setting up, okay, this is how it actually is. And again, it's a great school, but we just yeah, I had a harder time picturing my son going there when I was actually visiting the school than like in my mind prior to visiting
Mm.
the school. And so this was a tough no. All right, so let's talk about school C. And so we got school C,
Yes.
And how did they notify us?
Um, through email.
Through email.
Yeah, in the morning.
The yes
The
acceptance
yes.
was through
Yes.
email. Yeah. Talk about C and what were some of our thoughts? Because we didn't pick C.
Yeah, we did
Yeah,
not.
we didn't pick C. So
I mean, it was a hard choice. Also, a hard choice to say no because it was. I think the reason why we submitted C was for the convenience for where I work.
yeah,
It was very close to where I work, and it just made sense
yeah,
to apply GE there.
yeah,
I mean, it's a great
yeah.
school.
And it's a good school
It's a
too.
good school, really,
Yeah,
really good school.
yeah,
It's always good to send your kids somewhere that you're so close to, right? So like,
yeah,
if anything happens, you're like, you can go to pick your kid up.
yeah. So from the morning of Friday to the rest of the day, we had these school B and school C,
Hmm.
and then we had yet visited school B. So between those
Yeah,
two, it was again like pretty tough because
tough.
one was work convenience and the other one was what we thought was like a very good school, smaller school, so that was already tough. Now this kind of transitions into school D because school D was so unexpected.
Very, very
So school
unexpected.
D to me was like, yeah, right, like we're probably not going to get into because there's so many people that apply. So um, what was good about school D was location wise they're closer
Close.
to where we live
Hmm.
and a very good school,
Reputation.
good reputation, and
Not too big.
they have a lot of good after school activities.
Yes.
And they told us that we got accepted on that first Friday in April by email at like 4:30.
4:30. I
Yeah,
remember.
so it was like
I
we're picking up our son
yeah,
at
and
his school, and then I was like, I got the email. I was like, what? And so then I
yeah,
told you about it. So
it was at the
yeah,
entrance. I was like, what?
yeah, I
It's out of our radar.
yeah, we never even visited the school, and I didn't know where it was. I just know of it. We hadn't actually gone there,
Uh,
and so that was a big surprise. Ultimately, we went on to the school
yeah,
and we walked around. And what did you think of the school?
I really liked the campus.
Yeah,
I really, really did like the campus.
yeah,
I was able to imagine my son, our son, running
yeah,
PO.
yeah. And then ultimately, we decided to pick D. And
Yes.
again, this was without hearing back from the other
There's
schools. It was a E, F, and G. So with schools E, F, and G, yeah, we end up getting letters.
econ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
way later on, or like the following week. So at that point, it was pretty much out. And I don't think
Yeah.
any of those three schools, if we had even gotten into them, I don't think we would have accepted. And I know they say don't contact them.
I know.
Let them
Yeah,
contact.
one of school like
Yeah,
don't
like don't call them or don't bother them. Like they'll let you know if you got in. So I appreciate the email ones because that's all like instant and it's very exciting. And I think if you didn't get in, you gotta wait for the letter
yeah,
to then see your number if it's a popular school, and then you could possibly get in because some of the everyone's shuffling around, right? Everyone's
yeah,
getting into schools and then they're turning them down. So
yeah.
like for the schools that we turned down, the other three that we got accepted into for our son,
Hmm.
all those spots opened up for other kids and
Yeah,
other families, and I'm sure they're really excited,
excited.
that they were on the wait list, but then now, oh, they got one, and so
Yeah,
I would say like, yeah, it's just crazy. Like this time is just crazy, and so I'm glad we were able to lock it down with
yeah,
the school that we picked, which was School D.
yeah.
So that's sort of like our timeline, but I just want to bring
Mhm.
up more like general talk stuff. So if you're a parent going through this, maybe you need to hear this or you want to hear something like this. So hopefully these other discussion points are helpful. Like what kinds of pressures did you feel when picking this school for kindergarten specifically for our son? Like what were you thinking? Like what were some like worries and things that you were
Of course, I think as parents, we always wonder if we are making the right choice, even like preschool, right?
yeah,
We were like, although as much as we were feeling confident that that school that he goes right now is the one that was the best for him.
yeah,
But when you're actually going through that process, you're like thinking thing all these things that come across your mind, and then like you ask yourself, or if you're doing the right thing, or like, or should you just do what other parents are doing and do the same thing with as them, and all that. But like, I think going through the whole GE process, I just have to remind myself, just because what other parents are doing doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the same. Like, you have to know your child, And then of course, like all the parents, they're the one that knows your kid the best.
Yeah.
So you just have to be really confident with the needs and what you think would be the best choice for your child, and just go for it, whether other parents make other choices or not. You just have to stand firm and believe that your choice is the best for your children.
Do you have any advice for parents like watching this in the future that will probably be going through this as well?
Like, just don't stress out. It's hard. It's so hard, but just don't stress out and just wait patiently for your school, because there's nothing really you can do about it until you hear back from schools. But then I guess what you can do is, because like what when I've talked with some of my friends, they didn't know, even though they got accepted letters or email, whatever, they didn't know how to choose the school.
Mm,
So I think it's important that you actually have a priority list, or like of what
yeah.
schools you want to send your child to after submitting, like within the list of the schools that you've sent. Like, I think it's good to have, like, make those priority list first, so that because we were both like, oh, we got into this one, oh, we got into this one, oh, that kind of,
Yeah.
we were like kind of panicking. We're like, oh, what to prioritize, right? So I think having that priority is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you don't kind of like try to juggle and like decide the last minute.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you kind of create a strengths and weaknesses. You consider the distance from where you live,
Mm,
because that's going to affect quality of life
yes.
for the parents
Yeah,
and also the kids.
definitely.
Right? If you spend so much time in the car, like you got to consider that. Where is it located? Is it near grandma, grandpa, or activities or things like that? So I think you have to consider those types of things when picking schools, especially with after school care. Like
Yeah.
you still got to get that right. So it's a lot to have to actually think about. But yeah, I would agree. Like, create that list, create the reasons why, and
And choose them.
yeah, and you're probably not going to know until late March to early April, and just be ready because you only have short amount of time to make this decision. If you get into one school, it's kind of easy,
Oh, yeah.
right? But then
Yeah.
if you get into like two, three, or for us, we got into four
Or out of seven.
out of seven, which is really great. But if you get into more than one, like you really got to think about it, and I think you should know why you're gonna say yes. I think that's really important. Like, why did you apply to that school?
Mm,
It's not just you can't just put a reason. Or, I mean, I guess you could, but like, you shouldn't put a reason like, "Oh, I heard this school is good, so I'm gonna apply to it." Like, there should be programs and like actual reasons why you're picking a specific school, so that if you do get in, then that's the reason why you picked the school.
mhm.
If you're on Oahu, especially, like there's the
Yeah.
popular schools. Most parents know the popular schools, right? And they're considered the good schools.
Well known.
Yeah, well, the well-known schools, and they get a lot of applications,
Mm.
and so you know you don't have to apply to those schools either. Like
You don't.
you could if you
Of
want, if
course,
you
yeah.
want
It's your
options.
choice.
Yeah, and again, location and
Yes.
convenience make
Yes.
it an issue, but I would say like do your research on the schools that
Yeah.
you do apply to. Okay, so my wife printed out this, not to give away the again, but they the DOE provides these
Online.
like stat sheets and performance reports, and it's something that as parents you could consider, because it gives a little bio about the school, but it also gives like enrollment numbers, it gives
Yeah.
like ethnicity percentages, it gives the test scores. So
Mhm.
not just the test scores from that previous year, but for the past, I think, five
5 years.
5 years, so you can see like trends. And so if that's important to you, then that's something that you can look at. For some of these schools, it had like a super high percentage of like Asians.
Yeah.
Like it just and I was like, whoa, that's a lot of Asians. And that wasn't a criteria for us,
Yeah.
but it may be for some people, right?
Mhm.
They want like that. Or if you want like a lot of Native Hawaiians or something like that, like it breaks it down for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tool that you can use other than just, oh, I heard,
Application.
yeah, like, oh, I heard the school is good. Because reputations change over time.
Of course. So,
And
but these are the data.
yeah, like this is
Not
actual like numbers. So you can actually see like how the
yes.
students are doing, and that just gives you more information to help you make
Yeah.
your decision. So we got, all these numbers for all the schools, and I thought it was helpful, to at least get a feel for like academically kind of how the school is. And again, just like the profile of the school for like enrollment numbers, for
Yes.
size, and
Yes. Yeah.
and again, and that was important for us because you don't know how big some of these schools are,
Yeah, yeah. You
especially
really
in
don't.
comparison to some of the other ones. And it's like if that's important for you,
Mm.
like maybe your kid doesn't want to go to a school that has like 600 kids or more, like that's kind of a lot. Then maybe you pick a smaller school like 200-300 school, and that's good. Maybe like that's what they want, and having that smaller community where everyone kind of knows everybody. Schools in Hawaii are very important. Like what school you go to is very important. And although high school is primarily the
Yeah,
school that people
yeah.
mostly care about because it says a lot about you,
Mhm.
people also care about where you go for middle school and where you go for elementary school. Like as you move up, yeah, and so that has some social currency here in Hawaii for whatever reason. But I just want to put this out there that, you know, I would say our son got into a really good school. And when we mention that, and when we will be mentioning that to other people, oh, what school does your son go to? And we say the name of the school, they're gonna be like, oh wow, and it's just like a reminder for parents and for ourselves too that we did nothing
Yeah.
to get him into that school.
Mm.
So it's not like private school where we pay tuition to get him into the school. So yeah, okay, we deserve a little credit for him enrolling in that school. This was all luck. And so I just want to remind parents that like when your kid gets into a good school or if they get into a good school, like to just remember that that had nothing to do with you. Like you're a great parent, but it's not a point to brag about. It's not something that I have to roll into every conversation and be like, "Oh yeah, look where he got into." It's like, no, we didn't do anything. You'd be happy, but I would caution being overly happy and not turning to too much pride, like the bad kind of pride.
I think we're just really lucky that we had options to choose from.
Yeah.
Very, because I know that some parents they were like, you know, why did you got from that? Blah blah blah.
Good luck to all you parents out there. Try to
Not stress
not
out.
stress out,
It'll be
and
fine.
yeah, it'll be okay. Well, thanks for watching, and
Hello, hello.